Hello everybody and welcome to this presentation. Today I have the pleasure of giving you a short overview of our colored soft contact lenses called HydroColor. You will get to know all the possibilities we have with colored lenses, something about the production, how contact lenses are tinted, and how to fit them. My name is Markus Worm and I've been working for Swisslense for 18 years. In the beginning, I like to give you a short overview. Let's get started with the easiest one, named HydroColor tint. It's a transparent tinted lens, different colors, all in 3 intensity levels with clear pupil or without. They can change or intensify the eye color, only from bright eye to a darker eye, but not reverse. So there will be no effect on a brown eye. But for light blue, gray or green eyes, you can enhance them. The yellow color of this range you can take also for light blue light reduction. Then we have the intense colors, and they look more or less like sunglasses. We offer 3 colors, 3 intensity levels. Beside light reduction, they are also used for some eye diseases like retinitis pigmentosa. For those of you who are doing low vision, the next one can be interesting. The HydroColor filter offers you different blue blockers like yellow, orange, red, you know quite well from the glasses. Here we are doing quite often individual filters for color therapy, which we color according to prescriptions or on the basis of samples like tinted glasses. Here are some examples only for illustration. They are used against migraine, color deficiency, reading difficulties, or generally against visual stress. From this area, you should only fit and order if you are trained, because there is no special color for a respective problem. You have to figure it out systematically. Then we have the HydroColor Sport color that can improve the contrast and reduces blindings. The chosen color depends on the light conditions of the sport, the background, and of course, individual sensation. And finally, we come to our famous HydroColor Pro, our prosthetic lens. This iris print lens has a white opaque back to cover the damaged eye, and then over this color iris structure, and maybe a tint in the pupil or a black pupil. We have standard and individual colors according to samples. Don't worry, we get to the details later, especially for the HydroColor Pro prosthetic lens. This was just a short overview. Just to mention, we have a short and compact flyer, just 2 pages as a summary of our colored lenses. Generally, we have individual colors according to samples, possible on request. Different diameters of the coloring for iris and pupil. Individual parameters of the contact lens, high power, and spherical, toric, multifocal or even multi-curved designs. The color has no influence on the decay value. Take care when cleaning, disinfecting the HydroColor Pro prosthetic lens. A care product recommendation is on our website and an information card enclosed with each contact lens. But generally we can say that EDTA kills the opaque layer, but as EDTA is quite often not mentioned on the bottles, and further it has several other names, just take the recommended solutions. Do not rely on the lists of ingredients, they are correct but partly incomplete. When we have overtaken the Lunel lenses, sure, we also matched their old color and can offer them to you. Maybe you know these very bright colors here on the left side and the brown color Solaire in 5 absorption levels, quite similar to our HydroColor intense colors. Now we take a closer look to these categories. Here you can see examples of the first HydroColor that I've mentioned in the overview, the tint colors. And you can see how the eye color changes. The blue eye, for example, it gets more intense and more blue when you take the color blue 1, or becoming green when you take green 2. With a yellow lens, this blue eye gets light green, because as I said, the colors are transparent and thus the own eye color still shines through. Even if you cannot do anything for brown eyes, the advantage is that the natural iris structure is still visible and it looks very natural. Now the intense colors. Some use them for sport, others as protection for macular diseases, or as a cheap alternative to the prosthetic lens. If the eye color is brown, it works quite well. Also available with clear pupil. On the right, again, the brown Solaire Lunel colors. With the HydroColor filter, we come now to a color for real experts. The well-known blue blockers 450, 511, 527 and 550 are just the standard range. We can tint them with additional brown or gray to get darker, and we can tint other therapeutic colors on base of a sample or description. Generally, they are used for all types of macular diseases. With the blue blocker effect, they cut off the light of the spectrum that causes dispersion and blindings, and they enhance or amplify the contrast. Customers order them quite often for patients with achromatopsia, so patients without any color vision and low visual acuity. Do you want to know how a patient with achromatopsia sees the environment? Here you see the vision of a normal, healthy eye. A person with achromatopsia and without any correction has strong blindings, low contrast and poor vision. With normal sunglasses, the blindings are reduced, but contrast still stays poor. But now with blue blockers, the contrast is much better. Don't be surprised, of course, the visual acuity will not be as good as in a normal healthy eye, and you will not get a color vision. But now it's good enough to see all these objects in different shades of gray, like the path or the chairs. Good enough to be able to move safely and independently around again. A full blue light blocking is not the best option for every eye. Let's compare it just with a reduction of the blue light. Compared to the cut-off curve here on the left side, rising then sharply from a certain point, this curve on the right is more smooth and there is still little blue light coming through. or a dark brown color, as an example, reduces also the blue light. The advantage of both on the right side is that the spectral colors are preserved and thus the color vision stays more natural. Sure, not for achromatopsia, they will never have color vision, but for other macular degenerations or other uses. When we customize the filters, we can do, for example, additionally tint on this standard color, standard blue blocker 550. We can tint additionally brown or gray to make them darker. For example, the high transmission at the end of the spectrum here for the red filter is significantly reduced on the right side when adding gray. Which filters works for which patient or which eye disease? Well, the answer is you have to try. But when you are working with low vision patients, you have try sets of glasses without, it makes no sense. Here are the different sport colors with their transmission curves. I think more interesting is how they are used. On the top, you see the color from yellow to orange, red, brown, dark brown. And here are the spots where they probably work quite well. Yellow for indoor sports, orange for green background, and darker filter for high solar radiation. For some sports like skiing, it depends on the light conditions. The filter that you need can be very different. This is a general recommendation for filters, not only for contact lenses. Sure, for skiing you need also to protect the whole eye, not only the cornea. Sport glasses are the better choice for this. I showed you yellow and orange filters from the sport category and also from the filter category. And maybe you ask yourself, what's the difference? The yellow filter here and here, and the orange here and here. Well, comparing both the sport colors on the left side and the filters on the right, you can see that the sport filters do not absorb 100% of the blue light. They are just reducing it. Just compare the curves of the transmission. In contrast, the blue blockers absorb 100% of the blue light and partially also the green one. The advantages of just reducing the blue light are more natural color vision, the color spectrum is less affected. Then the blue light is necessary for the orientation and the sense of balance. Very important for sport. And these colors are suitable for road traffic. By the way, blue light has an activating effect and lifts the spirits. So, when it's not about a diseased eye, these colors might be better. In summary, when you want to choose a specific color, you always have to ask yourself what is really necessary for the patient. Make a difference between these points here. The eye. Is it about a healthy eye or a diseased eye? Diseased eye means problems coming from the macula. The purpose. Is it protection or visual comfort? The situation. Normal radiation or high radiation like in the mountains. The kind of radiation. Do you want to protect from UV light, blue light or visible light? Then the type of the visual aid. glasses or contact lenses. UV absorption can be done in a clear material or in a tinted material. And finally, the blue filter effect that I've mentioned already, blue light reduction or blue light blocker. As recommendation, take always the lowest filter protection that works. Now we are coming to our prosthetic lens, HydroColor Pro. This lens is used to cover or protect eyes that suffer from blindings or cosmetic deformity. That can be cloudings of the cornea or iris defects. Here you see a cross-section of this lens, and it shows that the color is not on the surface of the lens, but within the whole thickness, so really in the material. That's why you can use cleaners for the surface. The decay value is not reduced by this way of tinting, so you have the full oxygen transmission like for an uncolored lens. How is a soft lens tinted? The contact lens is placed on a support, and a round disc with a hole in the middle is placed over the lens. You can see both parts here on the right side. Then you are putting the dye, the liquid color, inside of the disc, and it spreads over the surface of the lens, but limited by the disc. The longer you wait, the more color is absorbed by the lens, and the darker the lens will be. The edge stays clear. The prosthetic lens is more complicated because first the opaque layer is tinted, then you have a base color, followed by the iris structure. As you can see, we are using patterns, discs, that allows us to reproduce the colors very well, if the customers reorders it. Everything can be measured, the time of tinting, so the reacting time of the liquid color, the mix of these dyes, and of course the discs are noted and documented. For the HydroColor Pro, we offer 3 different categories. First, the standard colors from the color book, called Selection. The color is directly matched with the eye by using the color book and its 30 color possibilities. Then we have the Selection Plus for higher power or with color modifications, like additional starburst or limbus ring on a Selection standard color, or maybe a tinted pupil. With Creative, you can have an individual color, a solution for high cosmetic standards. Because of this, we only tint them on the base of an artificial eye or an old lens, but not with the photo. Here you see an example of a Selection color lens on the eye. As mentioned, you can add some modifications on a Selection color, like in these examples here, with brown pigments around the pupil or a darker limbus ring. Also, a decentered print is possible. Here is a more complicated color from the Creative range. If you are wondering about these sharp photos, the uniform illumination over the whole eye, look how sharp even the eyelashes are and the blood vessels. And here on the right side, with a zoom function, you can see even these very fine printing dots. Well, these photos do not come from a slit lamp, but they were made with the topographer Medmont Meridia that includes also an incredible camera and illumination system. And just to mention, we are distributing this advanced topographer. A few more examples showing the comparison of the reference model and the final lens. Again, we need a good reference for this. That's why we don't accept photos. Because they are depending on the camera, finally the graphic chip, the illumination that was used, and then the screen you use to view them. Each one gives you another color output. For example, we got these two photos here from the same eye, not manipulated with Photoshop or something else. Different illumination, but what's the natural eye color? How to decide? Well, difficult. Ensure it's the same for photos from a contact lens on the eye. Which one is realistic? Because it is not always easy to get a good reference, we have introduced the Selection Plus. And it allows you to choose a base color from the color book and adding then a starburst or a limbus ring on that base color, which gives you much more possibilities. Like here in this example. You can see the base color 55B, the brown pigments from the starburst around the pupil and the darker limbus ring around. Again an example and how to order. Choosing base color from the color book 35B for this example, and then we add these brown pigments, the starburst, so we have a modified color 35B as result. The only reason why a picture of the healthy eye makes sense here is to see how large are the pigments, just 1 millimeter around the pupil or covering in a wider area the iris. Then we choose the right pattern. And here is the result, the eye and the contact lens, which looks quite nice. So Selection Plus is very helpful for eyes that have very strong pigments around the pupil, like in this example here, or a darker limbus ring. We also make just an occlusion color, so just opaque and dark gray color. It can be tinted in different diameters, also as pinhole for optical effect to improve depth of focus. And here is the fitting procedure. Start with a clear lens for the fitting, and if okay, then order the colored lens. For prosthetic lenses, sometimes it makes sense to do an opaque tri-lens. Then you can directly check if enough light is blocked, important for a wide fixed pupil like in this image. And to know what is the refraction that you need, because pupil size influences the power. And it's very important to do the color matching under natural light conditions. Take care that you avoid artificial lighting, especially neon lights. Also avoid shadows built by the eye socket. We have a wide range of parameters that allows you to fit even irregular corneas, and different parameters for pupil and iris. Finally, we would need for an order the serial number of the trial lens, the color code, and information if clear or black pupil, and of course the iris and pupil diameter that you wish for the tint. For all colored lenses, the chosen diameter of the color is important. Even if you have blue blockers, If you choose a diameter slightly smaller than the iris, like here on the left side, it looks quite well. If it's too big, like on the right side, the bright color lies on the white conjunctiva and it looks really very spooky. That can also happen when the lens is decentered. So carefully measure iris diameter and start with a clear trial lens for the fitting. To complete the presentation, I like to give you two examples or cases of a fitting of HydroColor lenses. First is a case of achromatopsia. The customer was incorrectly diagnosed as AMD for a long time, but then they found out it's achromatopsia. Visual acuity was 0.1 and customer was wearing glasses with blue blockers, but cosmetically it was not satisfying. Then we started with clear trial lenses based on the topography and refraction. An over-refraction was made, and then directly the colored lenses were ordered. The filter was chosen with glasses. The vision is increasing. It works very well at almost all brightness levels. Only additional sunglasses are necessary when it's sunny outside. After a few weeks, just again a correction of the power. Because of low vision, refraction and over-refraction is sometimes uncertain and difficult. And here is the result. Beside of an increased vision, reduced blindings and good contrast vision, like with her glasses, she feels now much more comfortable and has a significant improvement of her quality of life. We often see this, especially for younger patients. Another case, a prosthetic contact lens. The patient suffers from multiple diseases, especially a cataract operation went wrong and the left eye was getting cloudy. With such a topography on the side here, you just can start with tri lens and more or less standard parameters. The right eye was just corrected for the vision. The tri lenses were worn and they were comfortable and well centered. Then the color was matched with a color book and iris and pupil diameter were measured. There is a ruler in the color book. And here is the result. Quite nice for a standard color. Never expect it to match exactly, it's not possible. Also, because the eye color can change depending on lighting conditions. You see a well-chosen diameter of the black pupil and also for the iris diameter. The customer was trained how to handle and clean the lenses, especially that the drops for glaucoma therapy should be taken before or after the lens wear, because it can have a negative effect on the colors. As summary, that is our HydroColor family: the tints, the intense, the filter, the sport, and the prosthetic lens. So a lot of choices within this range of soft-colored lenses. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and learned something new. Thank you very much and bye.